And good evening, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a couple of seconds. I hope everyone's hanging in there okay and preparing as best you can for what's about to show up. Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Um, yeah, busy day, and I'm sure real busy for all you guys too, trying to get ready and get prepared for Hurricane Ida. The forecast continues to change kind of here and there in terms of the kind of track. I'm going to try and walk you guys through everything as we head through, the next 48 to 72 hours. So hopefully you're not surprised. During my time in at WDAM and in South Mississippi, I got a chance to get to know somebody digitally. A guy named Charles lives up in Ellisville, and he was constantly asking weather questions, which was terrific. And again, I'm going to get to things here in a hot second. I'm just letting everybody just kind of hang with me. Just letting everybody kind of get in, because I know sometimes it takes a second for this to ping everyone. So I like to give everyone about 2 to 2.5 minutes. So kind of hang in there. But I got a chance to digitally, chat with this guy Charles pretty frequently. And the one thing that he told me about Hurricane Katrina was that he felt like, and that maybe many other people felt this way too, like they were very surprised by what happened. And so I made it a point to, whenever there was a tropical system out there, but certainly when there was a large tropical system, to work as hard as I can to make sure that no one is surprised by what's happening, which is why I've been watching this thing like a hawk, so that nobody's surprised. Be it good surprise or bad surprise, right? I don't want folks surprised by anything. Whether it's, oh, whew, we dodged a bullet here, or, oh my goodness, we weren't anticipating it to be like this. Here's a look at Ida right now. You've got rapid intensification likely underway. It's sitting on top of some of the warmest waters in the Gulf of Mexico right now. It's not going to get a better setup than it's going to have over the next probably 6 to 9 to 10 or 11 hours. This is the warmest waters in the Gulf. You're the furthest away from any kind of shear. That upper level low is actually in Texas. We had a fair bit of rain in Houston today from this. The ridge of high pressure, which is starting to nose its way off to the west, isn't quite pushing it as hard as, number one, we were anticipating, but it isn't quite pushing it as hard as it may eventually, to kind of kick it a little more northwesterly of north, it's been a little more north today than it should have been. And so it's looking pretty good right now. So here's kind of a static view from the College of DuPage website. You can see that it's again, you got Louisiana, South Mississippi. It's on deck. It's up next. And so that's a look at it right now. We can throw this into motion too, and you can kind of get an idea of the exhausting. You can kind of see how this kind of exhausts away, and it's going in the opposite direction of Ida itself. You got some good exhausting happening, not only on the west side, but also on the east side. You can't see it here because we're a little too zoomed in, but you need this to get a good, strong tropical system. The other thing you need is warm waters, which it's sitting on top of right now. I showed this yesterday. It feels like 8 to 18 weeks ago, but it was just yesterday. Landfalling Ida will produce very heavy rainfall. We're going to have wind gusts up to 140 miles an hour, maybe even exceeding that along the coast. Tropical tornadoes inland for folks. Prepare for power outages to last at least a couple of hours. Depending on your location, maybe a couple of days. Depending on your location, maybe even a couple of weeks. So keep that in mind. Trees are going to get blown over. Branches are going to fall out of those trees and perhaps even onto power lines, which is why we're concerned about power outages. Right now, for you folks that live in South Mississippi and even some of the parishes of Louisiana, parts of eastern Alabama, I personally, Nick Lilia, does not anticipate this to look like Hurricane Katrina in terms of the tree downage across Mississippi and Alabama. I can't speak for Louisiana. The parishes of Louisiana may get pretty beat up from this. But in terms of the number of trees that came down with Katrina, where there was wind in excess of 100 miles an hour all the way up to Highway 98, that is not anticipated to be the case this time. But there will still be trees that come down and branches that come down on top of power lines, which is why we're concerned about the power going out. The localized flooding is going to be a concern, some of it brief, some of it lasting a little bit longer. We'll talk about that here in a couple of minutes. The possibility for tornado warnings, particularly in some of these feeder bands that are going to be pushing through. Stuff is going to be lined up in a very favorable way for many of the eastern parishes of Louisiana, right up against the Mississippi border. Most of South Mississippi and parts of extreme western Alabama to see multiple rounds of these feeder bands that come through that may feature the opportunity in the right and will be in the right environment to produce some of these tropical tornadoes. If you're wondering what's the difference between a tornado and a tropical tornado, there is a post over on the blog about that. You can check that out, and hopefully that'll kind of spell out the difference. Just know these tropical tornadoes do tend to be a whole lot weaker than their big brothers that we get around here in the spring and the winter. Make sure today that you have water to last you for a couple of days. Was it a gallon of water per person per day in your household? Non-perishable food to last a couple of days. This isn't winter time. You don't need to go get the bread and milk, because if you lose power, the milk is going to go bad, and it's going to be so hot and humid that the bread is probably going to mold pretty quickly. Charge up the cell phone and all the devices tonight and through the day tomorrow, so that if the power does go out, you're good and charged. I just leave them plugged in. Where are you going? I just leave them plugged in all day long, and then, hey, when you lose power, guess what? 100% charge. And make sure you've got a way to receive alerts from the National Weather Service as well. Here's kind of a remember how artistic I am. Kind of my breakdown of where I think there's the big old I for Ida, moving toward the Louisiana coast. Looks like the center of this thing is going to make landfall just off to the west of the mouth of the Mississippi River. The timeline on here showing the most likely arrival time for tropical storm force wind, 8 o'clock in the morning, right along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, as well as into the southern parishes of Louisiana. This does include New Orleans. 2 o'clock in the afternoon for kind of the Highway 98 corridor, and this stretches all the way out into the Florida Panhandle and all the way back to just west of, I guess, Vermilion Bay. And then 8 o'clock at night. I don't know how far off to the west the tropical storm force winds are truly going to get, depending on how things shake out as this kind of curlicues its way onshore. But use the 8 o'clock at night for parts of central Mississippi and Alabama. Here's the official forecast track, and you can see kind of how I'm no different than the NHC. I've got no real reason to argue with them necessarily. I tend to think that it's going to be a little more east than they're thinking right now. But generally, you're just going to kind of whip around from landfall in Louisiana back around to parts of northern Mississippi. Being on the east side of this thing for folks in southeastern Louisiana, in southern Mississippi, in parts of lower Alabama and parts of extreme western Alabama, the threat is going to be multifaceted. Yeah, sure, there's going to be rain. Yeah, sure, there's going to be wind. We all know that that's what comes with a hurricane. But I gotta say that the individual threats as we move through time are going to roughly stay the same and going to last for a very long time. So here's just kind of another way to visualize it. This is the one from the National Hurricane Center, suggesting by 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. They haven't pushed the tropical storm force wind quite as far off to the north, but you can see there's, the percent chance that you do a tropical storm force wind is around 30 to 40%, all the way north of Jackson and all the way to, north of Vicksburg, almost to the state line of Louisiana, Arkansas. It's like into the Delta. And so this thing is going to slow down as it makes landfall. However, it's when it moves ashore, the wind field is going to spread out. So the overall wind comes down, but the wind field gets much larger, which is why you're going to see tropical storm force wind go out much farther. Here's the chance to deal with hurricane force wind. Sorry if I'm yawning a little bit. It's, as you can imagine, been a long day. And so you can see most of the hurricane force wind confined to Louisiana. And again, this is the big thing that I really want to drive home for you folks that are living in Mississippi and in Alabama that are watching tonight, is that you probably will not get hurricane force wind. You're still going to get impacts. It's still not going to be a fun day. There's still going to be trees down, the threat for tornadoes, very heavy rain and flooding, sure. But this is unlikely to be a very strong hurricane for you. So kind of keep that in mind, and I don't want to say like temper your expectations, because that's kind of the wrong way to think of it. But if you're looking outside tomorrow or even into Monday, because yes, it's going to last that long. If you haven't looked at the county by county breakdown I've got up on the blog, please do that. That may be helpful too. But you're still going to have impact. You're still going to have a 30, a 40, or a 50 mile an hour sustained wind for X number of however long, depending on your location. But it's not going to be sustained 80, 90, 100 mile an hour wind in Collins, Mississippi, or Bruton, Alabama, or Alexandria, Louisiana. You know, all of these places are going to have very strong, maybe tropical storm force wind. It probably gusts up over 70, perhaps even approaching 80 miles an hour. But it's not going to be a hurricane for you. Instead, you guys get to deal with all the tornadoes. I wanted to show the SPC really quick. And you can see a 5% tornado threat across parts of South Mississippi and Louisiana. That 2% stretches all the way into parts of Florida. And it's going to start, let me go back here. It's going to start maybe sooner than you think. I'm going to stop this and just bring this all the way. So you've already got outer feeder band, rain band deals approaching the coast right now, and it's Saturday night at 9 o'clock. So this is going to be kind of a long-term event for everyone. So kind of hunker down and hang in there. A lot of rain, and this has been flip-flopping back and forth all day long. It seems like every next update, the WPC comes in here and makes a little bit of a shift, a little bit of a change, a little bit of a this, a little bit of a that. And that's good. You know, it may be frustrating for you guys who are trying to prepare. And you may say, what? Would they just make up their mind? But it's good. You know, I say this, you know, frequently, you know, off air. But you want a weather forecast to change, because when it doesn't change, oftentimes, the little changes, you don't want big changes, but like little changes, it shows that they care, that they're trying. You know, they're really trying to get it right for you guys. So a big swath of 6 to 10 across parts of South Mississippi, Louisiana, lower Alabama. You've got that little bullseye of kind of 10 to 15 and then 15 to 20 across parts of southeastern Louisiana. And real quick, I just wanted to show something. River flooding for you folks that live along the rivers, and I know there's not many of you, but you're out there. There are going to be a handful of places, you know, that are going to be dealing with flooding concerns, moderate flood stage, major flood stage. So please keep this in mind. You've got out in Waynesboro, minor flood stage, moderate. These are just forecast models along the leaf, maybe in McLean, major flood stage. So the water that all falls, okay, so everyone's going to get 6 to 10 inches of rain, but it's got to make its way back to the Gulf of Mexico somehow. And so the rivers aren't going to come up immediately, perhaps, but they'll be high for at least a day or two once the rain kicks on out of here too. So kind of keep that in mind as well, particularly for you folks that live near or along the rivers. The water is going to come up for sure. Speaking of water coming up, the storm surge. This is unchanged, and I'm actually very surprised that this continues to be unchanged. 10 to 15 feet along the Louisiana coast from kind of the mouth of the Mississippi River back off to the west, and it kind of tails off as you move off to the west. And then 7 to 11 off to the east, and then that kind of tails off as you make your way out toward Mobile Bay. I'm surprised that they haven't added a foot or two or three to some of these, honestly. Given what may happen overnight with Ida and given the direction that this is coming in and kind of the wide berth that this thing is going to be able to kind of swing water in, particularly into kind of Lake Pontchartrain and on the north side of the mouth of the Mississippi River. So for you folks that are living along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, even into parts of lower Alabama, southern Alabama, Mobile Bay, as you make your way out to the mouth of the Mississippi and Louisiana, I'm no storm surge expert by any means. I'm not a hydrologist or anything, and I trust the National Hurricane Center. I am surprised, though, that these numbers aren't a little higher. So if I were you, and you are living along the coast, I would prepare for higher numbers than these. I just would. And I don't know that they're ever going to change, and frankly, I don't know if... I could be wrong. But, man, I got to tell you. Here's a look at some of the warmest water. Ida is sitting about right in there right now. I was actually going to pull up... I wonder if I can yank it up real quick. I was going to pull up the... there it is. Let's open this up real quick. I'm going to show you guys something real fast in here. So, I just tweeted this out a while ago. There's where Ida is relative to that big blob of warmer water. And as this goes over the top of this and kind of drifts off to the northwest and kind of west-northwest, it's going to be over this very warm water for a while. And it's the warmest water at the deepest depths. So it's got nothing but fuel. It's not going to rain itself out like some of these tropical systems do in the Gulf, where they rain over the same area, it upwells cooler water, and then you can't get all the convection that you need to get a stronger storm. That is not going to be the case in this case. We're going to skip over that. Real quick, here's a look at what the HWRF is showing. I don't think the 0Z is out yet now. But this is what it's showing in terms of over the next few hours as it moves its way toward the Louisiana coast. The HWRF actually still has it. So there's the mouth of the Mississippi River there. It has it well off to the west of that, and then it kind of curlicues itself north, staying in Louisiana and moving into basically the delta, it crosses into Arkansas. So the HWRF is showing a much broader, wider sweep and not as much of a hard turn as maybe is depicted in here. So the HWRF is kind of saying wider swing. It's kind of starting on the eastern side, then swinging back to the western side, and then staying on the western side all the way through Louisiana and into parts of Arkansas and into parts of northern Mississippi. Looking at some of the models in here, they're pretty tight on trying to yank this thing again. There's the mouth of the Mississippi just off to the west of the mouth of the Mississippi, leaving in the right front quadrant southeast Louisiana, New Orleans, Mississippi, and Alabama, even the Florida Panhandle. And then it kind of curves, all these models kind of curve things around pretty quickly. Very few of them take things into Arkansas, and then out it goes. Let's see if there's the 0Z. Okay, so I was going to say, let me see if I can refresh this and get some new data. So there's the new data, and you can see it's shifted things even a little more off to the east, now coming in just west of the mouth of the Mississippi, up into across southeastern Louisiana and into parts of southwestern Mississippi pretty quickly, not taking things into Arkansas at all. And in fact, the HWRF pushes this thing back across Atlanta and off to the south. We'll have to see if that ends up being the case. Intensity-wise, here's your 18Z. It had a couple of them saying Cat 4. We'll refresh this, and now everyone's saying it stays basically where it is. So that's good. You like seeing that. New models consensus says Cat 3, and that's all you're going to get out of this before it moves ashore. Here in about 12 hours from now. And then it just totally drops off. don't really pay attention to these guys up here. That's the purpose of these models is not to accurately depict a landfalling tropical system. So don't worry about those. So the rest of these though are. And so yeah, you get to a Cat 2, which is where we are right now, or a Cat 3 overnight, and then you've got landfall and it falls off. Just a quick look. Let's see if we've got. We do, great. Some 0Z data in here in terms of the potential wind gusts. This is from the HRRR model. And so here we are at 7 a.m. on Sunday. So, tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., a lot of your strongest wind gusts still offshore. Some of the buoys out here probably recording wind gusts up over 70 to 80 to 90 miles an hour. Let me close this down real quick. 70 to 80 to 90 miles an hour. And then as we head through, so this is 7, 8, 9, here we are at 10. You can see how slow this thing really starts to move. It is right off the coast. Here we are at 7 a.m. and it's right off the coast. You can see some of these numbers for wind gusts in here. 3 hours later, still off the coast. 3 hours later, still hasn't made landfall yet. So this is Sunday afternoon at about 1 o'clock. And you've got wind gusts that have been gusting across. Let's see, we can get into New Orleans. You've got 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts starting at about 8 a.m., 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 a.m. You're still talking about wind gusts up over 40 miles an hour. I know you're thinking, yeah, Nick, that's just 40 miles an hour, though. It's going to be raining the whole time. And a constant push at 40 miles an hour on a lot of trees is enough, to really make trees struggle to stay upright. So, yeah, sure, it's just 40 miles an hour. But you keep on getting wind gusts at 40 miles an hour over the course of 12 hours, and eventually trees are going to say, look, I give, man. But that's New Orleans. We can kind of run this back. And again, we'll run back to about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon across some of the parishes of Louisiana that I've been breaking down kind of north of Lake Pontchartrain are the ones that I've been trying to hit because I know you guys don't get a whole lot of coverage up there. You're talking about winds starting around 40 miles an hour wind gusts. Again, this isn't sustained wind. This is wind gusts. South Mississippi, you're talking about 20 to 30 mile an hour gusts, and same goes into parts of western Alabama. We can run this 3 hours ahead to about 7 o'clock at night, and now is when you're starting to get into this 30, 40 mile an hour wind gusts across South Mississippi. You're starting to approach 60 and 70 mile an hour wind gusts across the parishes of Louisiana. You're still hanging around 20 to 30, and across western Alabama. We can run this to about midnight. So this is midnight Sunday and into Monday morning. So everyone's asleep. And the wind gusts outside across South Mississippi, if you go up around Meridian, Quitman, up in Bay Springs, you're still only looking about 20 to 40 miles an hour for wind gusts. But by the time you make your way down to about Columbia and Foxworth, you're talking about wind gusts up to about 50 or 60 miles an hour. And again, this is just one model, but keep in mind, this is kind of a good rule of thumb, 50 to 60 miles an hour. At midnight, we can go to 3 a.m., and you can see how the wind field kind of collapses. That strong wind field collapses, but you are going to see eventually this wind field really spread out. See it's spreading? We run this back. So we got it moving ashore. You see how tight and compact and concentric this circle is? You run it forward to Monday morning at 7 a.m., and now it starts spreading out. Look at how much bigger this area is. And now you're talking about wind gusts across South Mississippi between, again, 40, 60 miles an hour, 40 to 50 miles an hour across western Alabama. You're still talking about 40 to 60 miles an hour across Louisiana. And as we head through the afternoon, here we are at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all of these same places are still dealing with wind gusts between 30 and 50, maybe even approaching 60 miles an hour. So again, this isn't a hurricane for you. You're not talking about sustained wind at 80 miles an hour. You're not talking about wind gusts up over 120. For you, if you're inland, you're talking about a constant 30 to 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gust here and there with sustained winds between 20, 40, and 60 as this passes through all the way until Monday night at 7, and you're still talking about wind. Is this looks like on this one model you've got the center of the storm passing through Jackson. So again, not making it to Arkansas. I'm taking a little harder of a turn to the northeast. So this is all the way through Monday. I know this says Tuesday up here. If you're wondering how I've been getting these numbers, this is Zulu time, the Greenwich time, so you got to take 6 hours off of that, or 5 hours off of that. Sorry, to get your actual time. So military time, take off 5 hours. And so, yeah, it's a kind of a long-term, constant-y kind of an event. So. Don't think that because the wind isn't blowing too terribly hard Sunday night that it's really going to pick up overnight Sunday and into Monday. It will, but it's not going to pick up. It's not going to Hurricane Katrina outside for you. It's going to be a hurricane and it's going to be really breezy. But I'm more concerned about that constant 30, 40, 50, 60 mile an hour wind, gusts to 40, 50, 60, perhaps even 70 or 80 miles an hour depending on how the rain band's set up, which, by the way, I'm going to pull that up next. The rain bands are something that, let's run this to, Sunday night. Somebody, I'm every once in a while, I got an eyeball on the question. Somebody asks, what model do I trust the most? I like the H-Wharf for a lot of stuff, and when it comes to hurricanes, this is the HUR. So the HRRR is what some people call it. The H-Wharf is good, HWRF. I go back and forth. They're all different. They're all good for different things. So you can't look at just one. It's like Lay's potato chips. You can't have just one. You don't look at just one model and say, there's the one. Of those two, sure, those are the good ones. And that's why I'm showing it here. But the rain bands, I'm going to run this back actually. Here we are, Sunday afternoon. You can see the rain already starting for most of southeastern Louisiana, parts of South Mississippi, and Alabama. This over here is going to be like tornado central. All of these things are going to have the possibility to produce tornadoes. You're probably going to get some water spouts offshore too. As this moves, and again, this is Sunday afternoon. By Sunday night, I think that's really when the tornado threat starts to pick up for South Mississippi and Louisiana, and then it kind of hangs out as we head through the overnight hours. Of course, overnight, right? That's when the tornado threat. It's South Mississippi. I may have moved, but I haven't forgotten one thing. If you're looking for tornadoes in South Mississippi, your best bet is to look overnight because, by golly, that's when we get the most of them. As we head through the morning hours, here we are at 7 a.m., all of these are going to have an opportunity to produce the possibility to produce little tropical tornadoes here and there. And then this finally lifts north. The wind field really spreads out. You start to get dry slotted in here, I think, by the time you get toward Monday night. And then you're done with the rain. But the damage has probably been done. In fact, we can look how much rain are we talking about? All right, well, again, just one model, but, somewhere between 5, 7 inches, 9 inches of rain, 7 inches, 9 inches, you get down to the parish of Louisiana, 10, 12, 14, 15 inches of rain. You get a little further off to the south, over toward New Orleans, 10, 15, maybe even 17 inches of rain. So a lot of water is going to be coming out of the sky with this. So that's the concern is the flooding, the rainfall, and the wind that goes along with it that blows over trees and knocks out power. So there's the breakdown. Get back to the cone here. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm not quite sure how long I've been talking. I'll be honest. It doesn't. I don't think it ever tells me how long I've been talking to you guys. It usually does on the phone, but when I'm doing this on the computer, it doesn't tell me how long I've been talking. So if I talked your ear off, I apologize. But hopefully this was thorough, and that was the goal with this, was to be thorough. Now, like always, if you stuck around this long, I'll try my best to answer any questions that people have. I'll try and scroll back. Unlike the phone, I can't go all the way back to the beginning. So if you do have a question, put it over here and I'll do my best to answer it. First one, I do see how long of a time period is the rain going to be? The rain starts depending on your location. Again, that county by county breakdown is going to be like the best thing you can look at over on the blog. And if you're watching the video right now and you're on your phone and you're going, what's he talking about? When the video's over, you can go over to the page and find the blog. It's just county by county breakdown, or maybe somebody will post it in the chat here. But I try and go through all the counties of South Mississippi, a few of the parishes, Louisiana, and some of the counties of Western Alabama, to give you guys kind of an idea about what to expect. All right, so the rain's going to last again late Sunday all the way through Monday, to answer your question. How can you know if there's going to be a tropical tornado near you? That's a really good question, Dina, and the answer is you can't. What you can look for, I wonder if we've got rain bands on here right now. If I can pull one up on radar, I can show one to you guys, and hopefully, I need to get like GR or radar scope or something on this. Okay, so look for, in these tropical kinds of situations, look for anything with like orange and red on radar in one of these bands. And if you're in the northeast quadrant and you've got yellow, orange, and then red inside of that, that's probably a good indication that has the best bet to produce one, but you can't actually know. These develop and die so fast. Oftentimes, by the time the National Weather Service has issued a warning, it's done. They'll see it, and by the time that the radar pings the cloud, it comes back to the radar, it gets digested by all their computers and spit out on a screen for them to look at. That takes time. That takes about 2 to 3 minutes, and these things sometimes last like 1 minute. And so it pings it, they say, oh, tornado, issue the tornado warning, and by the time they've issued the tornado warning, there's no more tornado. I think it was during Harvey a couple of years ago. I'm pretty sure that it was during Harvey. In fact, that was the last time I probably had a beard like this during hurricane season. During Harvey, I remember Jackson had issued the National Weather Service in Jackson had issued a tornado warning on a tornado that was already done causing damage by the time they even issued the warning. It had come down, caused damage, lifted, done, then the warning came down. So sometimes these things can be pretty quick. They move fast too. I think it was during Hurricane Nate. We had a tornado warned little cell that was moving at 65 miles an hour. So they can come up on you pretty quick. All right. Other questions in here. When are you coming back to Mississippi to work? Craig, that's a great question. I wish sooner than I was, that's for sure. When the Gulf of Mexico storms, Jay, that's a really good question. Yes, so when they intensify, don't they tend to lean east? Yes, they do. Historically, and I forgot I was going to talk about this. Okay, so a great question, and because you asked such a great question, Jay, you get an extra explanation. So what we're going to do is zoom this out to look at the nation. All right. So you've got your ridge of high pressure, which is right over here. There's your Ida. The idea is that this ridge is going to kind of nose off to the west. Now, usually, yes, as these intensify, they want to go toward the pole as fast as they can, toward the North Pole. And so they tend to turn more east because more east tends to be more north. But they want to go toward the pole. Coriolis says, hey, turn around, go toward the North Pole. But this ridge, the one that's below me here, is moving back, let me do this right for you guys, to the west. And as it moves to the west, the idea is that it's going to nudge Ida a little farther off to the west. As it does so, before it kind of falls apart. As you can kind of see the lines in here. These lines, isotax in here, are lines of similar pressure. So you've got a ridge of high pressure over here. You see how big it is? It kind of shrinks down and kind of falls apart as Ida passes by. The other interesting thing, the proximity of this ridge of high pressure to where Ida is will also generally increase the wind field. And that's the other reason why my tropical storm force winds go out a little further, or out a little farther than the National Hurricane Center wind field. I've had a couple of questions about that. I say, hey Nick, your winds are higher and wider than the NHC. That is why, and I may be overestimating, but that's why. Um, so that and that's also why this, as much as it wants to turn east and go north, it may not turn east quite as much because of that ridge of high pressure. So Jay, that was a great question. How far off to the east? Jennifer asked, how far off to the east do you think it will move? I think the mouth of the Mississippi River is probably as far east as it will go, given the available data that we've got to us right now. That said, as I mentioned in the post on the county by county breakdown, there are not very many storms that have went over as fat a loop current as this is going over right now. I mean, we got like a handful of storms as examples. Most of those occurred before we had access to all this data. So there is some semblance of, we don't know what is going to happen necessarily with this in terms of not only its intensity but also its direction. I'll just going to be transparent. So as much of this forecast that I'm saying, okay, east of the mouth of the Mississippi River, I think that's the limit. There is a certain percentage of that where that's the forecast, not the promise. But there's not as much evidence for us to pull from to make forecasts on for situations like this. And so that's also why the forecast has been higher than the model data would suggest. Forecast is for a Cat 4, model data says Cat 3. That's why. We have very limited access to information about these things. So, all right. Other questions on here include... a lot of people asking about their specific place. Ooh, I've seen a couple of links to the blog in there. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Yeah, folks, check that out. That'll hopefully help you out a lot. Yeah, how far east? I tend to think that, that the mouth of the Mississippi River is probably the limit, if not very close to it. Will this be mostly over Monday night for the Pine Belt? Yes, I believe so, Carmen. That's a good question. I think by the time we get toward Monday night, the sustained wind will still be with us. 15 to 25 miles an hour, gusts to 30 and 40. But the hurricane will be done by then. Shibuda and Quitman. Yeah, you folks up in Clark County, Amanda, you guys are also included in that post. If memory serves, you're talking about wind sustained around 30 to 35-ish as a peak, and then wind gusts peaking at around 45 miles an hour with, somewhere between 3 to 6 inches of rain. Let's see here. Is there any chance it goes right up the mouth of the Mississippi? There's a chance. There's a chance. If we live in mobile homes, should we leave? Lakin, I have a history of kind of dodging that question because every mobile home is different. Some people have straps and it's reinforced. And it's, that we've designed these to handle a category, 2 hurricane, and other people, have them sitting on cinder blocks. And so I'll be honest, I don't know, in your particular situation, but I'll tell you the same thing I tell everyone. If you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel safe where you are, go somewhere where you do. There's no shame in calling up a friend and saying, hey, look, I don't know how I feel about this. Can I come crash at the house for the night? I don't know a single person in South Mississippi, friend or stranger, frankly, that does not have the generosity to open their door for you in this type of a situation. You could shoulder tap somebody on Hardy Street in Hattiesburg and say, hey, look, I don't have anywhere to go for the night. I don't feel safe in my mobile home. Do you have a room? I would bet you shoulder tap no more than 5 people, you probably find somebody. People in South Mississippi are really nice. And if it's one of your friends, they're probably just as nice. So if you don't feel safe where you're at, find somewhere where you do. Um, let's see. Any other questions? Are they going to open the shelters? I believe so, Brittany. For more information on that, contact the local emergency management. I think Forest County, Covington County, and Jones County will be able to help you out with that. If you're trying to leave Collins, what direction should I go? West, northwest is probably your best direction to go. So up 49 towards Jackson. If you're trying to, that's just if you're trying to leave Collins. If you're trying to get out of any impact from this hurricane at all, you're going to want to go to about Shreveport. If you can make it to Shreveport, you're probably not going to deal with anything from this one. Can I rest easy and sleep well in Hattiesburg overnight, Sunday and into Monday? I think all across the Pine Belt, it's going to be one of those nights. Tropical tornadoes, EF0, EF1. These are not the ones that are going to peel a roof off your house. These aren't the ones that are going to, take out a wall from a house or throw a car through a building. EF0s and 1s knock down a lot of trees. They can do some roof damage. They can knock down fences. But I would be more concerned with trees going through homes overnight, Sunday and into Monday from tornadoes or severe weather than I would be folks staying up all night because they're afraid the tornado is going to get them. I hope that makes sense. This isn't Easter Sunday tornadoes. This isn't January 2017 tornadoes. This isn't February 2013. This isn't any of those things. The zeros and ones are the things that we have, almost weekly in South Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, all winter long. They can do damage, yes. They can put trees through homes, yes. But if you're sleeping on a lowest level interior room, which is what you should be doing anyway during a tropical system, I think you'll be okay. Am I going to continue to update those county by county forecasts? Yes. I'll try and get one out again tomorrow morning, and then tomorrow afternoon or evening. I'm getting pretty zippy at these, after doing a handful of them now. I can plug through them. I think I got the last one done in about 2.5 hours. You'll get a couple more updates. I do have to go back to work on Monday, though I am talking to my new job. Hopefully to see if I can work something out where I can continue to give you guys updates as well. Why is the right front quadrant so bad? Ernie, that's a really good question. It's because that's where the wind is set up in a particular manner relative to what happens in the upper atmosphere. So the wind down at the surface with the upper atmosphere wind and the tumbling effect. It's just like a primo environment for producing these very short-lived tornadoes. I actually made a post on this a little bit earlier over on the blog. I'll put another link to that coming up maybe a little bit later or overnight tonight. What should we expect down along the coast in Waveland and Long Beach? Shana, yeah, so that is also in the post. But for the most part, like I was saying earlier, that storm surge is going to be probably a little bit higher. At least I would prepare for a little bit higher than what the NHC is saying, as well as wind gusts up to 60, 70 miles an hour, sustained winds 30, 40, or 50 miles an hour, perhaps even approaching 60 at times, particularly as you make your way back off to the west toward Hancock County. So that's kind of the way things look. Will I be able to drive back to Laurel from Columbia on Tuesday? Bridget, that's going to depend on how many trees come down. In terms of rain or wind, yeah, I think you'll be fine. But, if there are trees that are down all over the place, it may be a real slow go of it, driving back and forth. What's going to happen in Petal? I knew I'd get one of you Petal people on here asking. It's never a Facebook video without somebody in Petal saying, hey, what about Petal? You folks out in Petal, Forest County, are, again, that's over on the blog too, but, sustained wind around 30 to 40 to 50 miles an hour wind gusts, 50, 60, maybe even approaching 70 in some of the strongest storms along some of these rain bands as the wind mixes down. And you can't rule out the possibility for maybe a tropical tornado or two. Red Cross. Oh, Robin mentioning the Red Cross is opening a shelter tonight in Columbia at one of the churches. Thank you for that, Robin. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Yeah. Had tropical tornado hit during Zeta. It broke the neighbor's tree and put through the side of my vehicle. Yeah, Chris. Yeah, I tell you, falling trees can still cause way too much damage. And so, yeah, it's not the tornado that's going to hurt you when it's an EF0 or a 1. It's whatever the tornado decided to knock over, whether it's a tree, a fence, or whatever. And that can be the pain in the butt. Yeah, people laughing about, weather anxiety with tornadoes in South Mississippi. I know it. Don't I know it? Let's see here. Let's see. Live in a brick home. Am I okay? Yep. Yeah, you're probably fine. Let's see here. Oh, from Columbus back to Laurel on Tuesday. I am so sorry. Yes, equal. It's same story. It's a matter of trees that are down in the way. The wind and rain, yeah, it'll be up there too, but it will be easing back enough, I think, to the point where you'll have, yes, heavy rain at times, perhaps even some localized flooding at times, and wind 25 to 35 miles an hour. But it'll be done being real bad by the time we get toward Tuesday. Let's see here. Do you think it'll be like Katrina in Gulfport? There's no data to support that, Kay, thank goodness. I think the surge will be higher by maybe a foot or two than the NHC is saying right now, but no, like I kind of started off the video like this. You may have gotten in late. It's fine. But this is not going to be, at least given all the data we have access to, a Katrina-like event inland. Now down on the coast, closer to the coast, for folks in New Orleans, maybe in a different way. We'll have to see what the levees do. But this will be a very bad storm for them. But once you get far enough inland, this is going to fall apart enough and not be moving quite as fast and in kind of a beeline fashion that it shouldn't be like that at all once you get inland. Oh, and Amanda, thank you for posting the county by county update for folks. Hopefully that'll help a lot of folks out. Can we access these models? Yeah, Eric, you can. This is pivotalweather.com. This is tropicaltidbits.com. All you guys can do is you can load these up anytime, anywhere. I'll leave you guys with the cone. I didn't mean to leave you guys with the GFS there. I have a lot of big trees around my mobile home. Should I leave? Barbara, like I said, man, if you don't feel comfortable, if you're looking around and you go, man, I got a lot of big trees, it's supposed to rain, it's going to be windy, Nick says lots of trees are coming down, it's up to you. If it were me, I would probably leave. I mean, I had friends. I'd be like, hey, man, can I just crash on your couch for the night? Find somebody that doesn't have a house surrounded by trees. And just say, hey, can I, sleep on the couch or use your spare bedroom for the night? I don't know a single person that would say no. Let's see. Don't work that you're a barrier between a bunch of us and panic attacks. Oh, that's too funny, Rachel. I'll let them know. I'll screenshot that and put it in the email. Let's see. If it went to the east, would that change the weather forecast for Forest County? Now, I kind of talked about this last night. In fact, here, I'm going to pull this up real quick. I talked about this last night in a post, and let's see if I didn't bury it already. That's the 8 a.m. post from today. Oh, it is already buried. My goodness. Yeah, my poor thing. I'm going to get carpal tunnel by the end of this. Rapid intensification, IDA update. Yeah, the ifs of the forecast. So this is a thing from last night. I mentioned in here that, let me get down here to this, that depending on how this ridge stacks up, I remember how I was saying that the weakness here may allow this to move a little more north than northwest, but if there was a weakness on the south side, then the strength was going to be onshore to kind of nudge this thing a little farther back off to the west before landfall. And then if for whatever reason the weakness was to the north and it was to the south, then it would go to the west first and then kind of curlicue back off to the east again once it made landfall. Well, so far this has held, where it kind of jogged off to the north. Now the question becomes, are we going to have that bit of strength to the north to kind of edge this thing back off to the west? So in order for there to be a change to the forecast, you would need to not have this. This would have to be weak, and then to the north would have to be weak. So what it would do is it would glide up and then be on the north side of the mouth of the Mississippi, move inland right along kind of the Pearl River, and kind of then it would turn probably a little slower. It wouldn't make quite as much of a sharp turn. It'd turn a little bit slower to go around this ridge of high pressure. If that were the case, yes, then you would have to increase the wind threat for not only the Mississippi coast, but also into parts of South Mississippi. It's still going to slow down quite a bit as it makes that turn. No matter what turn it makes, it is going to slow down a little bit. But the less of a turn it makes, so if it comes in further to the east, it would be moving a little bit quicker. So yes, I'm working through this in my head at the same time that I'm answering, so I apologize. So yes, you would have to bump up the wind threat for South Mississippi in that case. Let's see. I'm going northeast because we have to stay with everyone. Oh man. So, in the case of COVID, it's not that I forget that COVID's a thing, but okay. So if COVID is a concern and you don't want to stay with friends because of COVID, hotels are always an option. Motels are always an option. Or just keep an eye out for the trees around your house and make sure you're in that interior room while you're sleeping. If that's a concern. Let's see here. Any other questions? I'm like so far behind on the questions, I think. Which model is best for rapid intensification? It appeared it's still strengthened on the last visible satellite. Stephen, yeah. So I like to use the ship's model, which I actually can't open anymore. Let's see if it'll allow me to open this with good old CyberDuck here. Let's kind of minimize that. Give me a hot second. This is just going to take 2 shakes of a lamb's tails. 0 Z's are out. That is AL 97. I want 09. That one. All right. Just hang with me. It's the ship's model. Again, I'm kind of doing this on the fly here, so I apologize for not being all... My girlfriend would tell you that I cannot multitask. I have the inability to multitask, and she is absolutely and 100% correct. I absolutely cannot do 2 things at once. Which brings me to my point where... There it is. No, that's the one from yesterday. Where's the one from today? Oh, for goodness sakes. You gonna let me do this? All right. Well, anyway, this is the ship's model. This isn't going to work for me like I thought it was. I'll have to dig that out a little bit later. The ship's model I like for rapid intensification. It tends to do the best job. Sometimes it kind of overdoes things. You have to go to a specific place, a specific website to get it through the NHC. Sometimes they'll post about it. And then you have to have a special program in order to download. You got to have an FTP manager in order to download it. And then, as you just saw there, sometimes doesn't even let you download it. So there's that. But yeah, that's the one that I like to look at. Let's see, any more questions? What would cause that ridge of high pressure to weaken? Dina, that's a good question. Generally, ridges, they ebb and flow. As areas of low pressure, they ebb and flow. But ridges often get eroded away by areas of low pressure, like a hurricane. And so, as this kind of moves to the north, the battle is between the two of them, which one's stronger. And, sometimes they just naturally kind of ease back and fall apart. So that's another way that it could weaken. I think I caught all the way back up on all the questions. The problem is you guys probably know I can only go back so far, so I may have missed one or two. Hopefully I didn't. But there you go. There's kind of a breakdown of what to expect in terms of Ida here, and hopefully this was helpful. And again, I'll have another post tomorrow morning over on the blog. And if you're wondering specifics about where you live, what county you live in, I've got that county by county breakdown, and nothing's changed since that was posted over on the blog. And so you can check that out, and hopefully it'll help answer all your questions. The latest one, the one that I just posted like an hour ago, I've also included an update on rainfall totals and kind of the peak intensity timeline. When is it going to be the worst? Yeah, your window of opportunity for stuff is so big, but when is it going to be like the worst of the worst? I tried to kind of pin that down for you folks as well. So, and that's over there. And hopefully that can answer even more questions if I didn't get to your question. Here. So everyone have a good night. Get some rest. Don't stress too much. Again, this looks big and bad, but as I said off the top, this is not, at least at this point, looking like it's going to be a hurricane for you, unless you live on the coast. If you live within 20 miles of the coastline in Louisiana, yes. For everyone else, it is still a hurricane, but your impacts, while still problematic, trees down, power out, perhaps some flooding, tropical tornadoes, is not going to be a Category 4 hurricane for you. That's the good news. That's the best news I can offer right now. So, again, hopefully this was helpful. You can check the blog for more information. I'm going to take a look at stuff tonight. I might try and post something else a little bit after 10 o'clock, now that it's 9:45. A little bit after 10 o'clock, obviously, since 10's and 15 minutes. I didn't realize I'd been talking to you guys for an hour. Oops. I'll try and get something out for you guys if anything matters. If it doesn't, I may just call it a night, get some rest, wake up early tomorrow morning, and get right back to it. So everyone have a good night. Get yourself some rest. Charge up those cell phones. Fill up some water bottles. Put some fill up empty water bottles. Put them in the freezer. Have them frozen, just in case the power goes out. Put a bunch of them in the fridge too. I did the same thing. And stay safe. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.